Alright everybody, welcome to this new video. Sorry for the long delay of me not having any content for you guys. I took a little bit of a break, but I should have had this on my stream anniversary. It was, at this recording, it's about 3 days ago. It is now December 6th. Should have been on the 3rd, but that's okay. At least we're here now. We're just going to take a little bit to talk about my, my games that I've played this year. And we're just going to talk about what I liked best that I played. I'm gonna come back to a normal sort of schedule and a normal like time. I took just a little bit away so I can kind of figure things out. But I will be having a new sort of layout, new things going on. I'm actually now recording everything and streaming through regular OBS and not Streamlabs OBS anymore. So a little bit of a change there, but it seems like all my settings got to transfer okay. Just gonna have to kind of fine tweak a few things, so apologize for the video and for future streams until I get things really rolling. But I see you, Mega Man. What's up, man? Yeah, so just to really go through this real quick, we're gonna have a little stream later for probably for SMT5 or something like that. But at least for now, we can talk about what I kind of did in this past year. 2020 was pretty good as far as like. Not obviously with what was going on in the real world, but with the stream, had a lot of things that went on for it. But this year was very scattered, I'll say. It's actually a little more close to what I feel is the game of the year for me than the past years that I've played a lot of stuff. So I will go through all these in order. There are some things that are going to be in like a top 10 sort of format, but as you can see here, it is a tier list structure. Not to necessarily say that they are within a certain tier or not. They're just sort of like what I would kind of give them as a grade. Nothing I've played kind of falls below like a C mark. So I can just kind of like give like everything like a higher of 70s to up to high 90s in this year. So obviously Game of the Year is going to be set on for its own category. S ranks have their own and so on and so forth. But we're going to go from the very bottom and then move up and start talking about what I liked and what I didn't like of each. It's kind of like a small little like taste of what you can get from the games themselves. You'll see that like not all of these are like full-on story games. You can see this as Halo Infinite, and you also see here Splitgate. These are multiplayer-based games. But I've played them enough to where like I feel like I've kind of had like a very good impression on them, and I can give them like a good ranking on at least currently. Obviously, Halo Infinite's single player is not out. I will not be talking about the campaign of it. I'll just be talking about the game as if like it's just multiplayer. And I could always talk about the full thing of Splitgate since it's basically all just multiplayer. So keep that in mind as we kind of go through some of them. But yeah, let me just get started. I did play it on stream. I didn't get through the entire thing because the entire thing I didn't even know what to really do with it up until I saw like a full breakdown on YouTube of it. But it's not really worth to really go through twice. I feel like just having like what I could do in like a stream session for this game, good enough, I feel. It's not really anything that I really want to brag about too long or just talk about too much, because I feel like it's one to where you should just kind of play for yourself, because it's one of those like weird games that it's just talking about it enough is good for me right now. That's probably the worst game I've played, Stanley Parable. Not to say like it's bad or anything, but there's not really much to talk about. It was like released a very long time ago, and I started playing it like on my brother's computer. It was like actually one of the very first games that I bought on my Steam library as like building it up. But actually getting around to really play through as many endings as I can. The game is very... Let's talk about like what you can expect from a game nowadays. It's nothing that what you can expect. It's very kind of centric to itself, and I'm trying to be very vague about it because I should be. Talking about it's a little bit off because there's nothing really too much like it. I would kind of categorize it as like a mystery type game, like just what exactly is it? Explaining it is really weird, but playing it is different. There are multiple endings. There are like 13 or something like them. Like even like I think there's like maybe 15 rather. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff to go into the game. There's a lot of different areas you can go to. There's even like out of bounds areas that you get a different ending and such. I got maybe about like 7 or 8 of them, maybe like 10 at the most, but it's not really nothing to write home about. But it is still like something I would say like it's kind of neat to see. If you don't really want to play it, it's kind of neat to see like what it really is. Um, it's just a lot of negatives because it's just weird. It's one of those weird games, but I still vaguely enjoyed it. But nothing really like to write home about. If I had to give it like a score, 7.7, I would say, like 7.6, like maybe a C, I would say, like a C plus. It's okay. Just I mean, it's not nothing to write home about, like I said. So, you know, it's just kind of like the worst thing that I completed, but not to say it's bad. It's just something that I can probably just forget about, but just go back and think like, it was kind of neat for what it was. All right. Next up is I'm gonna have to kind of put it at. Now, this is something I haven't played on stream. Most of these I have completed and played on stream, with a few exceptions. Stanley Parable being one of them I never necessarily completed. But this one I haven't even shown off at all on stream. But it is something that I do want to talk about in extensive because I haven't played it on stream, so you guys can get a good feel of what I'm talking about. This is Mafia Definitive Edition. I never played the original. I've only played Mafia 2 and Mafia 3. In my opinion, Mafia 3 is probably the worst one. This remake, though, of Mafia Definitive Edition is... If you've never played it, this is a very, very... Let's put it in perspective. GTA had just come out with 3 different remakes, or if you want to call them remasters. This is really a good pinnacle point of what you want to talk about for remastering a video game. This was maybe like released in the PS2 days, maybe even PS1, I'm not really sure. But I never got around to it, but going through Mafia 2 and Mafia 3, I didn't know really what to really expect going into a second game. And I'm glad that I got through Definitive. It's very good for what a remaster is, but it still feels very PS2-ish. A lot of the mission structures are very like copy-paste exactly from what I saw of, you know, just going through the missions, but the gameplay was definitively like just changed overall. How the game looks is so incredible. Like the amount of work that they put into remaking this game is honestly top notch. I really couldn't say much anything else about like the art direction and the style and how much they went into like recasting and then doing the voice acting. All of that is pretty much 10 if I could really give it like high praises. Those are like what really you should be looking for in a remake. But when it comes to the actual gameplay is unfortunately like where it kind of falls flat for me at least. It feels very much like playing a PS2 game in like nowadays. If you're okay with that, then you'll probably have some fun with it, but there are some jankiness parts to it. Mainly like when it comes to melee combat, it's really kind of broken. There is a mission pretty early on to where you have to kind of use a bat to beat somebody up that's trying to fight a woman. And then that took like fighting this one dude took about like no joke like 5 minutes of him not even retaliating, but me not wearing him down enough to actually beat him. It took consecutively like about 5 to 6 minutes just mashing the mouse just to try and beat him up, and that was just kind of broken. Some of the driving physics are very wonky and very like tanky, but I guess that's kind of like what they're going for like the past like the 1920s or 30s whenever the game is set. I guess it's supposed to feel like that, but it just all the games feel too much like a tank. Like they're very hard to control. And that most of the game is either you shooting or driving, and the driving sections are never really that fun, even when driving like motorcycles or anything like that. Story is good. It's very in itself of like what it is for like the trilogy. There are some things that kind of like bleed into Mafia 2 specifically, which I didn't know going through the second game, that I did something that was irrelative to the first one. So it does tie them together in a way, which is actually really neat. But if I still had to give it like a definitive score now, if I really could just give it like of what a remake should be, it really does deserve high praises, like high 9s to a 10. But gameplay was just really lacking for me. I would have to give it overall like a 7.9. It's like very, very... I wish that the gameplay was just better, because I would put it higher. But I love Mafia 2 still, and I would probably go back and maybe that would feel like jank. But as far as a remake is, like, everything aside from the gameplay for me is great. But gameplay is really what brings it down, for sure. I don't know. There should be more to it, but I don't know. In my opinion, you still should try them out. Mafia 1, 2, and 3, they're fantastic for the most part. Like I said, 3 being the weakest. But 1 and 2, 100% you still should go and play them. 2, in my opinion, still being my personal favorite. Next, man, I really wish this was higher. Oh, man, I wish this was higher. This is such a shame. Like, I wish I could talk about this and say this is, like, one of the greatest of the series. But it's not, and wow. Man, I do not like Dynasty Warrior games. I do not like Dynasty Warrior, Hyrule Warrior games. This is the game that introduced me to it. Persona 5 Strikers, putting it at B. Man, I love Persona, in case you haven't seen my channel. I fucking love the games. I've played through multiple of them on stream, starting with 4. That's still my personal favorite. 5 being so fucking fantastic, and same thing with 3. They're all great in their own right. And let me talk about the negatives first. Because there is a lot to talk about that's great in Strikers. If you are not a fan of these Dynasty Warrior-esque games, these Hyrule Warrior games that it's just waves upon waves on gigantic like number of enemies with bosses and stuff, if that's not your thing, this will not be your thing either. However, I will probably say that, like, from what I've read and from what I heard of people that are fans of these types of games, this is probably their personal favorite of it being combat-wise. And I don't blame them. It actually has a very good mix of what a Dynasty Warrior game is with the Persona flair of it. With, like, stopping time to make sure you take your turns and then, you know, picking your attacks, so on and so forth. Baton passes is all there. All that stuff that you would see in a Persona flavoring is there. But, like I said, if you just aren't used to, like, the waves upon waves of enemies, it's just not there. Like, it's probably the best of what they could offer. But for what 5 is, like, Striker specifically, I wish that it just wasn't this game style. I will give Atlas a lot of credit for them, like, branching out and doing a lot of different things. Fighting games, arena style games, even like the handheld games being like Tyrian Odyssey with Persona Q, and dancing games, they fucking have dancing games, and now they have Muso games, which is another acronym for like the Dynasty Warriors. So they're branching out and doing a whole lot of different things. You can't really blame them for that. But I'm sorry, I can't, for the life of me, bosses take so long when you don't even feel like you're underleveled throughout the entire time fighting things. You go up to certain bosses and it takes literally like about like 15 to 20 minutes just to fight one boss like multiple times, because there are some instances where you have to go through old missions, and if you want to like 100% them, you would have to go back to old bosses and then refight them. A lot of the designs though are like really good, so like there's a lot of things that are very good, but the gameplay, again, just like Mafia, just brings it all down for me. And as much of a Persona game it is, it's just not gonna be higher. I really wish it was. But to go into the positives, to where I would put at least like the story bits and for what this game is, like telling the story and art direction and all that, I will talk about the S-class shit that's in it, because it does have S-class shit. It has the best character of any Awakening that is in any of the Persona games. I'm sorry. Bizenkichi's Awakening, I've shared it on my Discord multiple times, is the best one free. Nothing comes close to that one. Maybe like aside from some of the MCs in different games. But Lord have mercy, they have some shit in this story. This is Persona 5 2. It's a direct sequel. It goes straight into like what happens afterwards. It's like literally like that same year, like in the summertime. So like it continues the story of what the characters go through. Like Makoto and Haru are starting to go into college, and you know all the other characters like going to their third or second year of high school. So it progresses the story in some way. Granted, the side characters like Iwai or Tai or any of them, Kawakami, my personal favorite, obviously, they're not in this. So you're not gonna get, aside from the main cast and like maybe a few other side characters, you're not gonna get everybody, which is unfortunate. But granted, this was being made at the same time as Royal, so you know it's kind of like weird how they didn't really incorporate some Royal stuff into this. It's a little bit weird to go into. I won't be talking about it here, but like I said, characters like the ones that they added, Zenkichi being my personal favorite. The fact that it really is like a sequel to Persona 5 is immaculate. Like, I love the story in this one. It's not as long, but it feels like it's about like maybe like 30 to 40 hours if you're like gonna like push through it. But it's still a Persona experience in that way, where it's just development and character development and story. It's all great. It's all great there. Music, of course, they have a lot of remixes of original casting of like battle themes and certain area themes as well. Even with a new original content, they have new music in this game, which is all again more S-class shit. Art direction, of course, Persona related. They did as what they could do with merging PC with PS4 and Switch. I can't really say anything about the Switch version. I played this on PS4. I think that it still holds up on the Switch, but for what the art direction is, for what they could kind of minimize for everything else, they still do a good job. It's not like as good or eye-popping as like 5 is, but for what they could do, it's still great. Like, you know, up to A's for that. But, you know, everything else being as high as it is, it still like doesn't bring the gameplay aspect of it up, which is just a shame for me. I gotta give it like just a straight A, or not an A, 8 rather, just like a B, like B minus. It's just, I wish that the gameplay was better, because aside from that, it has wonderful moments that you would see in any other Persona game, but sadly, it's just sitting at an 8 for me. Now next I'm gonna talk about, I kind of have like a tiebreaker for like as far as like points are categorized, but I'm just gonna like kind of talk about both of them. Ratchet Deadlocked is one of those Ratchet games that was back on the PS2 era that I never got a chance to actually play back then. I've always seen it in Game Informer magazines, and people talk about how great Ratchet Deadlocked is. I've played pretty much all of them on the PS2 era rather than this one, and I really wish I did, because it's exactly what I thought it was, but I didn't think I really wanted it up until I played it. It's very not focused around Ratchet and Clank, because it's literally called Ratchet Deadlocked. It's literally just Colosseum based mission structured levels that is just different weapons, maybe some of the old ones that you're used to, different type of story, and it's really just centered around like you going through like a gladiator type style, which is honestly like a lot of people's favorites in some of the Ratchet games, where you can go through like a lot of gauntlets, but it's centered around an entire game for the most part, and people love it, in which I love it. It's not my personal favorite Ratchet and Clank game, or Ratchet game for that matter, but I really wish I did get a chance to play it. If I had to go through like some negatives on the top of my head, it's just like I said, there's not really that much exploring in multiple missions. Mission structures are very to themselves. There's not really a lot of open-ended areas like you would see in like Ratchet 1 or in some areas of Ratchet 2 and 3. It's very like kind of just do your waypoints and then just kind of move on to the next mission. If you're fine with that, then that's good for you. But I kind of like the idea of having like a lot of different puzzle aspects of certain areas, and going to find like gold bolts and like seeing some secrets that you would find in certain missions. You're missing a lot of that here, which there are some, but it's just not at the forefront. The forefront is the combat experience, which, you know, is granted like one of the best experiences you can have in one of these PS2 games, but I wish that there was just more of everything else that was what made Ratchet what it is. But if this is one of your personal favorites, not shitting on it, it's still a fun game, and I'm glad I played it. It's just not really what a Ratchet game is for me. And it's also like not really humorous. Like there are some like few one-liners and stuff that are like kind of, you know, humorous, but when it comes to like Ratchet, I kind of like expect, like especially in these eras, like the PS2 days, like the wit and the comedic value that came from it is top notch from back then. Like being rated T, like as good of a rated T as it can be without itching it over to that M-rated status is what I was really looking for in some of these older games, and I got them all in all of them but this one. So a little bit of a down play for me there, but overall I still really had a great time with it. I really wish that if they really want to talk about like getting more of like a sequel to it, I would have put it past it. It would be fantastic to see like something similar in this type of game style. But still really good. I still need to play Ratchet 2021 that came on PS5. So I'm probably gonna have that one being compared to. But yeah, still fantastic. It's a great game. Just like a 8-1. And the other 8-1 that I wanted to talk about. Now this, oh man. Okay. So, talking about this without bringing up the name yet. You wouldn't, let's kind of categorize this. There's games that are puzzles, like very puzzle-based games. Then there's like kind of specific puzzle games where you can get the gimmick of what it is immediately. Portal probably being like the number one gimmick of that. That's the most popular. Portal being, you solve puzzles by portaling, and you have co-op experiences to where like you can both have like different portals that lead to different areas and stuff like that. This is one of those types of games. I thought that this was a little more recent that it came out, but it turns out it's actually kind of old, like maybe like 2 or 3 years. I played it on my own, just because I wanted to play and I heard so many good things. But I not only recorded this afterwards, but I actually got Remora on my channel with some Discord people like his girlfriend and Oh So Cool Guy and Liberal Terminator to come and watch this game being unfolded by someone else's hands. I kind of like the idea of me streaming, but having someone else play, even though like I may have like played it myself. I'm gonna do like some of those in the future again. But Superliminal, man, this was a fucking ride. This was so fun. In my experience, I'm very quick with certain puzzles, like getting them to like figure out and like kind of move forward with them. I'm not the best when it comes to puzzles, especially when it comes to like gimmick puzzle games. But this one was like kind of, to really like put it in perspective, the game is about perspective. It is about thinking outside the box in the most broaded way thing that you can think of. There are puzzles to where you would probably never really experience without really getting into this game. It is not only physics-based, but it is perceptive-based. Where if I take my phone here, for example, and I put it up closer to me, I perceive it to be bigger because it's in my vision and it's bigger. I put it further away, it is now smaller from my vision. The game is centered around that ideal and that concept. But in certain areas, up to the 10th degree, where you may even get to a certain point of the game and be like, where's the answer to the puzzle? And then you look up and then there's a window that's open and then you have to grab something that's outside and then bring it back inside. So there's a lot of certain areas that is not only like something that's going to blow your mind every single time that you go through it, but it keeps ramping it up and up and up. And right when you would think it's going to get stale, it really doesn't. And then it just takes you on for a different loop. Superliminal also even has a more recent update to where it's a multiplayer update, which I haven't played yet. I think that there's now ways that people can create levels and go through them, kind of like a Forge mode in a Halo. But with a puzzle game that's like a Portal that's specific to this, I do want to go back to this and give it another shot. And then maybe do a multiplayer session with Oh So Cool Guy, Remora, and stuff. But yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. It's Superliminal. Super Liminal. Superliminal. It's fan-friggin-tastic. Still an 8.1 because it's just a puzzle game, but it's about as high as a puzzle game rating as I could probably give it for what it is. Portal probably being a little bit better because of just like having an integral story. The story, there is something there to like really like kind of think about, but it's not really a story. There's not like characters or anything. There's just like kind of like a overall speaking and all that. It's just not, there's more to it than it, but you're not going to get anything like of a story bite from here. But for what it is, it's literally hilarious, but also really brain teasery. So 8.1, I think I would put it just for like a new experience, a little bit above Ratchet Deadlocked, but I'm gonna keep them like kind of both at the same level, like around like a B. So fan-freaking-tastic, and I really can't wait to get more into the multiplayer and see what other people have cooked up. Another man. Oh man, how do I explain this? I guess I have to explain it by not explaining, getting into it a little bit. Return of the Obra Dinn. If you've seen my channel enough, I do love indies, as you can see, like with some of these picks here. Studios that are very that come up with so many new ways of getting you involved into storytelling and gameplay styles is really kind of what jive me to like try certain things. Return of the Obra Dinn is one of those games to where I'm like, what is this even about, and what is this game trying to tell me? I will just give you the synopsis of what the story is. The Obra Dinn is a ship in which you are basically an insurance collector or insurance agent that it just returns, and you have to figure out what happened on this ship. You have a certain item that kind of shows you the last thing that happens within a certain event in the story, and you kind of hear very audio-esque of what's going on without many people saying their names, without many people saying what's going on. You just hear, you basically have to listen to this audiobook and then get a picture, and then you have to retell it in a way of what happened. So let's say, for example, on this ship, you hear somebody arguing with a woman. They don't say their name. They're like, oh, you were supposed to be here at 7. What happened? Oh, they start to give an explanation. You hear the door open. Someone else says, you traitor, and then you hear a gunshot go off. Then the picture shows the person shooting, the woman there, and then the person getting shot and falling to the ground of their death. Then it's your job to figure out who was the person that was the woman, who was the person that the woman was speaking to, who shot who with what type of gun, if they shot him at all, or if they stabbed him or whatever, and who is the person that's shooting them, and what happened to their fate. There are like some survivors that happen within this story, some aren't, but that's up for you to really get through. And I wish I would explain it more than what that is, but this is really best told by yourself and the game presenting it to you in the way that it's describing. I don't want to get too much into it. There are some nitpicks because I did play through this on stream, but I didn't complete it on stream. I got through at least like figuring out what happened from point A all the way up to point B, but everything in between was like kind of like very jumbled, and you have to like kind of, you know, put certain people's names to faces and such, but some of them get a little confusing. I would say that's like kind of like a puzzle-based aspect to it, but it's not really something that is very explanatory. It doesn't hold your hand. You really have to like sit and think about who certain, you know, people are and what certain things have occurred. It's just not as explanatory as I would hope, but I think that's just kind of what the game is going for. But even with all that, like, it's a minor nitpick, but it's enough to like kind of bring the experience down. It's still a fantastic ride that even has like an epilogue story to really go into. The game's on PC, the game's on Switch, and I think it might be on other modern platforms, but I know I played on the Switch, so that's the... Actually, no, I played on Steam. I bought it for the Switch, too. Still a fantastic ride. I loved it. If I had to give it a score, I think I put it as an 8.2. Still very fun. Does beat Superliminal because I do like the style of what it is. You can even change like the art style to make it like more like a blue aesthetic or like a CRT experience, stuff like that. Which I get, like, maybe you can get like a little different of a vibe and experience from, but it does have a little bit of nuance when it comes to like how you can see the world too. But play the game for yourself. I didn't beat it on stream nor show the whole thing on stream, but I did beat it on my own because I wanted to make sure I took the time to really figure it out. And a stream of this is just only good enough, in my opinion, to really get like that point A to point B experience, and then you figuring it out on your own. That's like kind of how I experienced it, and you should experience it too. It's a good thing I didn't show the ending because I'd say it's worth you figuring it out and putting it together. Still a great ride, and loved it. Absolutely fantastic. Next up, gonna talk about something that's not really story based at all, but very action oriented. This is Zone of the Enders, second runner, I believe it's called. The Zone of the Enders game was made by Konami back on the PS2 days, And again, one of these things that I heard was a classic, but never really gone back to. Now, I'm not really one to go back to play a sequel nowadays that's not, like... If there's going to be a story related to these games, I'm going to go back to the first one. But from what everyone told me, it's not worth going to play Zone of the Enders 1 by any means. They remade 2 for a reason, because 2 just gives like a full-on synopsis of what 1 really is about within the first 5 minutes. And that's all you really need to know about Zone of the Enders 1. Everything in Zone of the Enders 2 apparently is just that much better that it just obsoletes 1. So I took their word for it, because I've seen it like about 90% of the things I've read up on. And yeah, I don't think I really missed out on much, because the little synopsis was about, like I said, about a 5-minute thing. And it wasn't really much. But going into this, if y'all like Gundam games, if y'all like just zooming around in giant-ass mechas and having PS2 style mission structures to where like you kind of go through A and B's and you get some jankiness, but you have like a lot of cool shit that happens, yeah, Zone of the Enders is definitely one of those for you. I never really was into a lot of like these mech-based shooters or anything like that, but this is probably like one of the first ones I've ever beaten and played. What a fun game. It's just a lot of fun to just go and destroy shit. A lot of different mechanics that go into it, if I remember correctly. There's like a lot of different weapon structures you can have. Like a lot of like your sub weapons mainly. Like your main combat like kind of stays the same. But certain situations call for different sub weapons. And there's not really much that I can really remember off the top of my head that come from like a lot of different areas of the game. What I can really say from just my memory is a lot of the mission structures are, like I said, kind of point A to point B, get to this here, pick this up, put it here, kill the enemy here, and wipe out the zones. You know, you can kind of like see a formulaic aspect that come from old games like these. But for what it is, it was still a lot of fun. And nitpicks just being like that mission structure, like I said. Don't want to kind of like beat the dead horse, but if you're not really into like a lot of these like old school games that are like from PS2 days, you probably won't enjoy it too much because it does have some jank. But if I played this back then, I probably would put it at a higher ranking. But as it is right now, it was still like a really fun ride. I'm not going to talk about it too much here because it's very action oriented. Story is there, but honestly, I don't really remember any of the characters' names, so it didn't really leave a lasting impression on me. It was still really cool to like see how the characters interacted with each other. In I don't think they recasted the cast or anything. I think it was just like all the audio logs and everything that was brought over from the original. Just kind of like remaking like some of the models and some of the changes in gameplay and such. But still a fun ride. If you ever get the chance to play it, it's definitely awesome to like give it a go. But it probably won't stick with you as much as it would be like if it like had just released today, or if you were back in time and it released back then and then you gave it a shot when you were younger, it would probably stick with you more. But for me, it's fun, just not enough to really leave a lasting impression. Same thing, 8-2, still fun, but hopefully they kind of go back with their roots and just get like another game of this, because I would like to play another Zone of the Enders. That would be really fun. Next up is talking about like roots of old school games in general. Man, oh boy. Okay, so I started playing a game on stream which I beat already, called The Messenger, in which that The Messenger is a very Ninja Gaiden-esque game, to where its main gimmick is making it feel like as if it came back or was brought out in both the NES and Super Nintendo era, because the game is literally brought in half for 8-bit sections to 16-bit sections, 8-bit style graphics, 8-bit style music versus the 16-bit, so on and so forth. But that game is fantastic in a lot of ways, but when it comes to the initial difficulty of what you would expect from a Ninja Gaiden game, like back on the Nintendo, you didn't really get that. Say hello to Cyber Shadow. Cyber Shadow was, oh man, this was a difficult ride. It's not as hard as like stuff that was back then on the NES, but if you were to put this on an NES and then give this to kids back then, they would probably just have difficulty back then too. And even today's standards, like this game is quite hard for some of the stuff that you could be used to. This game does have checkpoint structures and like a lot of waypoints that you can kind of go back to, and it's very like it goes through the game like as you progress through like a normal Nintendo game. You get through one level, then you get through another level, and you go back and forth in some areas, and then you have different zones within certain areas, in certain missions and such. You can even go back and like once you get like certain power-ups, you can go through certain doors and get through new secrets, all that stuff. But Cyber Shadow, what makes this a little bit in a different direction of what The Messenger is, it is pretty much what a modern Ninja Gaiden game would be. Gameplay-wise, music-wise, 8-bit style, and difficulty is, like I said, it's all present. The soundtrack, there's a lot of really good bangers here. It's, as far as, like, original music, it's probably, like, on par with, like, certain areas of The Messenger. Like, The Messenger, I can't rave enough, but this just gave me so much of the vibes there within, every structure and aspect of it that I can't help but have played it. It's not higher on the list because I already played The Messenger first, and granted, obviously that came out before this. But if you were to go through both of them at the same time, maybe you might like one over the other. You may like having Cyber Shadow's difficulty more over than the aesthetic and pleasingness of 8-bit and 16-bit of The Messenger. But I'm sorry, Cyber Shadow. The Messenger is just, in my opinion, 100% better in almost every way. Story in itself too. Messenger just beats it all out of the water. It has so much comedic elements. It has a lot of personality and traits. Cyber Shadow, I can't really remember almost anything about the story aside from like the main plot. And not going to spoil it, but I would say it's kind of generic if you're used to NES style games. So for that, it's just lower on the list for me, but it's still as high of a next step of what I would want to see in like restructuring like an old school feeling of an NES classic to modern day. And if I got to give it like a thing, it's going to be 8-3. Don't want to talk about it too much because the game is very action oriented. So if you like something that's from back then and you like something that's of a challenge, then Cyber Shadow is for you. And as much of it was for me to talk about it, I've already talked about it enough. If you haven't played The Messenger, it is just a better Cyber Shadow. But play Cyber Shadow first, then probably play The Messenger. I wish that I could give them both on the same level, but Cyber Shadow is just not as good as The Messenger. And every time I talk about it, I just always think of The Messenger. So it's unfortunate, but I still really like the game for what it is. Just go pick it up. Another great indie to put to the books, for sure. Okay. Next, I think that we're pretty much out of the B areas here. Yeah, it looks like that oh no, I'm sorry. There is one more thing. There is one more thing in the B area. Now, man, okay. Maybe there's going to be a more definitive review. Maybe not. But I'm just going to review this game as if it was just the multiplayer. But Halo Infinite, as much as it surprises me of how good the multiplayer is, it has a lot of problems. Let's get through the positives first. Like I said, campaign is not out yet, so I can't really give it a full score, but I'm just going to give the multiplayer aspect the score as it is now. Of course, this will change as updates go through, as more playlists get added, as more people get to play it. The biggest thing that I could say about Halo Infinite, aside from it being free, is, I've said it multiple times already, this does feel like an evolution of what the last Bungie Halo game was, which was Halo Reach. This really feels like as if 343 never was brought on and played Halo or created Halo 4 or Halo 5. The multiplayer aspect specifically just feels like an upgraded and more toned and fine-tuned experience from what Halo Reach was. I love Halo Reach as far as like the story was, but I didn't really care for the multiplayer aspect because I kind of grew up on Halo 2 and Halo 3's multiplayer for the most part. I still liked it. It just kind of didn't really feel like it was really Halo because they were different Spartans and all that stuff. Granted, that makes sense. For Halo Infinite, this is so fun. Like, wow. for what 343 has brought to the table with 4 and 5, those shit shows, I'm sorry, Halo 4 and 5 are quite ass. And there's nothing to me that really kind of screams at, like, feels like just a knockoff Halo than those games, even though it has the Halo name. But Halo Infinite, man, they put in the work, and I gotta give them props. As high props as they can get for not being Bungie, it feels like a Bungie game. As far as, like, it feels like it's got the second best battle rifle within Halo. Of course, Halo 2 being the best. It feels like every gun, like, just packs a punch. The assault rifle, fantastic assault rifle in comparison to all the other games. Pistols, some people have issues with it. I particularly care for the pistol. It's not as good as, like, a Halo 1 pistol, but fun. Needler still is back, of course, being as strong as it is. Even new weapons coming from, like, the, don't really know what it's called, but I'm going to call it the railgun. You put in, like, a giant, like, harpoon, and then you stick to, people to the wall with one shots. That's fun. The Covenant rifle, like, the 3-round burst rifle of that. That's fun to use, even though it's not great. There's some other ones that I can't really remember off the top of my head. The Commando. That's not really like a DMR. It's like a DMR with like an assault rifle mix to where like it's 20 shots, but it's like very headshot based where you can get a lot of fast kills if you're really good at being accurate. Just it feels so much more fluid than any other Halo experience because you have a sprint mechanic. You've got the wall jumping and all that. You've got the grapple hook. You have like new and innovative, I guess I would say like new weapon structures and all that. I could talk about it more and more, but it's just so much fun and I love it. But the biggest problems, oddball. Like I can't stress enough how annoying it is to where I just want to play some Slayer. I probably want to play some Capture the Flag once in a while. And I always get fucking oddball. Oddball is so fucking horrible. And it would be fine if you liked it. But you're forced to play these playlists within both your team Slayers, like your ranked battles. Every single game mode is now integrated with your searches. You can't just search by Slayer. You can't just search by Capture the Flag. You can't search by the domination style game that they have. I forgot what it's called off the top of my head. But they're all mixed together. And if you don't want to play a match and you're in ranked, too bad. You can't leave because if you leave more than twice, you're going to get banned for 5 minutes. Granted, you don't lose experience for leaving, but getting banned because you don't want to play oddball for the 8th time in a row and you just want to play a Slayer game, that's ass. Like, I really hope that they add like a playlist section so you can search for specific ones you want to play, because no one is gonna put oddball on that shit. 100%. Oddball is just so annoying in this game. I can't really describe it. It's just so unfun. CTF though, and the domination style game modes, those are fun for as they are. I like to give the game some variety, but there's no team snipers, there's no team BRs, there's no like fun stuff like team doubles, there is big team Slayers and big team Capture the Flags, but those are the only two playlists that you can play on. And the maps, there's not that many maps. It's just it's not finished, but for what it is now, it's still fun. And the other big thing I gotta talk about is the battle pass system. Your level progression is so barren if you're not going to spend money. It is one of the most egregious ways that they can add a free experience for the multiplayer, and the upgrades and all that stuff that you can buy they pale in comparison to another game I'm going to talk about later. For what it is and for what the multiplayer is, I'm going to give it like an 8.4. As fun as the oh, and of course the other big thing, grenades are obviously the most overpowered shit on the planet. Holy shit. You think you can get away from grenades? Nope. Every single more often than not, most of my deaths through a lot of encounters are through grenades. Now, grenades are supposed to be pretty powerful for what they are, but they seem in this game just so absurd to the 10th degree. At least from my experience playing like any other Halo. Like maybe the next closest one would be probably Reach, because I remember, oh, I'm sorry, Halo 4. I remember Halo 4's grenades being ridiculous. But in this game, they just feel like they are, aside from like maybe like rockets, like they just take out shields so fast and they just seem to always get you in the most perfect opportunities, and that's honestly just kind of gets really aggravating. But aside from all those, I do expect this game to really get better when it comes to the multiplayer aspects, adding new maps, adding better playlists, hopefully adding selectable playlists, and more stuff that you can unlock without having to spend money and all that stuff. Granted, I get that they wanted to make money off of this, but people were going to buy Halo anyway. But if this wasn't free, I probably wouldn't have played the multiplayer. So I guess that's like a give and take type situation. I would like to see more games be in this route, mainly with some PlayStation alternatives. Like if they were to make like a Killzone with a multiplayer, I hope that they would go free to play, so that way they can, you know, kind of capitalize on some of that revenue still, but still being fun. I would hope that multiplayer aspects do get to be in this route, but to be as egregious as it is now, hopefully they learn from their mistakes and improve on it. But as of right now, like a 8.3, 8.4, still like a B+. I'm still having a lot of fun with it. I'm still going to be playing it, you know, like maybe like twice or 3 times a week. But it's pretty much like one of my new multiplayer fixes that I'm going to be playing for sure. All right, now we're out of the B category, I promise. We're out of the Bs. We're now going into, now at least, what you should be playing within this year. At least like the stuff that I've played. These are like the ones that I can't recommend enough. Granted, there are some here in Bs, but they may not be for everybody. But everything, at least from here on out, is stuff that like, there's almost nothing that I could really nitpick on too much. But there has to be winners here, and there has to be some not as great winners. And starting with pretty much one of the few games that came out this year that I actually got to pick up and play. There's not really a lot of stuff that came out at the beginning of this year that I got a chance to really finish. I am still in the middle of talking and playing through Shin Megami Tensei 5. So that is a game that came out this year, but I just didn't get a chance to beat. But one of them that I did, and starting off in the A category, is Resident Evil Village. I had a complete 180 as far as the Resident Evil series is concerned. I played, my history before really streaming was just Resident Evil 5, and that was it. I've only played 5 as a single player experience, and went through it as a co-op experience, couch co-op and multiplayer. But I never really got into Resident Evil as a series. Man, I'm glad I started streaming. When I started streaming Resident Evil 4, that was my next game off that list, I pretty much got heavily invested. Played through Resident Evil 1 Remake, played through Resident Evil 2 Remake, beat that. I have not beaten Resident Evil 7, but I have seen a playthrough of it. I just didn't really feel like kind of playing it for the stream or anything. Started going through 6, hated it. Did not like it. Resident Evil 3 Remake, played that, beat it. I can at least tell myself now that I do really, really like Resident Evil now. If I had to pick one that's my favorite, it's either between Resident Evil 2 Remake or 4. I love both of those near and dear to my heart. And this one, Resident Evil Village, is very much of what 7 is, but fine-tuned a little bit. It is, from what I know, from what I've seen, a little bit shorter than like maybe some of the other ones. Maybe it just feels shorter. Maybe I'm just like kind of, you know, they're mostly all short games. They're not really supposed to be like upwards of like, you know, 25 plus hours or anything like that. But they're very short to beat, which is really nice. You get like really nice package within a short amount of time. But unfortunately for me, Village's biggest gripes for me is the length in certain areas. I wish that the castle section in the beginning with Lady D was longer. I thought that was going to be majority of the game, but it's clearly not. It's only like maybe like 20% of the game. Then you go through like the dollhouse or whatever, like that baby in the basement. That's like another section that's about like 10-15 minutes feeling like. Then you get the river area, then that's a little bit. And then you get through like a little bit of like a warehouse area, that's a little bit. And then putting them all together to have your final boss. It feels like a very Majora's Mask structure, where you go through the 4 areas, and then you get to the final section, and that's kind of it. That's the game. Where Majora's Mask has a lot of side shit, Resident Evil doesn't really have that much side shit. You can go through certain areas and have like a lot of collectibles and all that. You can get like your upgrades to go through all that. But for what it is, it's just, I don't know. I just kind of felt like it didn't have that much meat on its bones. And the stuff that did, like whatever was on that bone, the meat of it it's still very good. It's still nice and crisp, but it's just not enough. You know, you just kind of wish you had more. Gameplay perspectives is not really anything I could really complain about, because this is the first experience that I've played in an FPS style of Resident Evil. I did play it on PS5. That's the version I had. Playing on controller still feels good. I'm only just now kind of like getting myself into the FPS styles of mouse and keyboard. So I didn't get a chance to really get that aspect of it. It probably would have been a little bit better as far as an experience that goes. But being a controller shooter, still fun. I don't really have any issues about it, like of, you know, not being able to move or anything like that. Just not having that much freedom, or however some of the PC players would say. But it's just not as much as I would think. And that's the biggest problem. It just doesn't have enough. I wish that there was just more. Obviously, it does have my personal favorite, of course, Lady D, for multiple reasons. But it does have really, it's story-wise too. I did like where it was going. Not gonna spoil it here, but yeah, I did like the different changes in what you're fighting, because 7 had not really that much zombies. You know, you don't really have any zombies anymore. In Resident Evil games, it's not really anything like that. It's now going into werewolf-like territory with vampires and all that shit, which is, you know what, I'm all for it. If it's not gonna go into zombie territory, which is done and beaten to death, let's just go into some weird shit like this. I'm totally down for that. No complaints here when it comes to like diverting from its original roots of zombies. Boo-hoo. You don't get another zombie experience. I'm sorry, but you want a zombie experience, Resident Evil Remake is one of the best zombie games you could ever play. So, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 4, even though those aren't zombies either, but you have them. So, you could always go back to those jankiness feels or whatever, and you have those games being the top tier of what Resident Evil is. But from this direction, I'm all for it. Fucking bring it on. I want Loch Ness Monster. I want Frankenstein shit. Bring it on. I'm down with it. I hope Leon can fucking fight Dracula in the next one. That's some shit that I would like to see. But funniness and shit aside, still really fun. One of the games that came out this year that is definitely like on the verge of being game of the year for a lot of people. I don't think it is, but as far as for what the game is, very good experience. I'm gonna give it like a 8/8, just about an A rank, I would say. Like, you're just about to get to an A. If it's just about to get to an A or an A, whatever you want to call it, A-. Still fantastic game. I don't know if I'll ever replay it though. It also has some modes that I didn't get to play, like the Mercenaries mode, which a lot of people really love, going back to like the Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 4 days. So there is extra shit here, but I don't particularly care for those modes, so maybe you might get some more love and experience from that. But for me, I just didn't really bother because it's not really for me. But for what it is, still fantastic. Still love it. Okay. Following up with that, should I just... Yeah, I think I'm just going to go talk about... I think I'm just going to talk about what is a more definitive multiplayer experience rather than the Halo experience. Golly, man. If there was a indie team that deserved the biggest praise as far as multiplayer aspect is concerned, the guys behind Splitgate. Holy shit. I did not play a multiplayer game in a very, very, very long time before I found Splitgate. I was still playing, like, maybe Modern Warfare 2 on PC, like, here and there. But nothing really, like, that came out rekindled the fire and aspect of competitiveness from a shooter than Splitgate has. My multiplayer experiences are, you know, Halo 3, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, you know, those games that came out then. I pretty much stopped at around Modern Warfare 3. And every other experience I've had multiplayer since never really, like, gave too much of a shit about beyond, like, maybe, like, the first month and stopped playing. With Splitgate is Halo meets Portal in every good sense of the word from what I just said, with some minor things here and there. Splitgate is made by a team that just loved the Halo experience just like I did growing up, maybe a little bit more, and they have created something that is just so fluid. so awesome to play, so stunning from what just feels like in momentum of how you jetpack and how you move and how the guns feel. Like I really wish that I learned about this game sooner, because it was in like beta for a very long time. I started maybe at around like March time, I would say. And since then, they've added so many new updates with new maps, new game modes. There's game modes that is centered around the meme culture of what FPSs are. There is a game mode that is called Teabag Confirmed. What that means is every single kill you get, you don't get added towards those points until you start teabagging your opponent. And once you teabag your opponent, then you get the point. It's so funny and creative, and like it's so unique of what an experience of an FPS you can have, that it's a free game. This game coming free and just being by a team that's just all love of what they used to have with snipers, with battle rifles, with assault rifles, pistols, bats, which is substituted for like the energy sword, no grenade launchers or anything, no grenades. The only grenades you have are grenades that you are EMP grenades, to where you throw them at other people's portals so you can close them. And of course the portal system, it's just, if you played Portal before, it's exactly what it is. Put a portal here, and then you start going towards that area. You can even see through portals. You can go through enemy portals. You can't really look through enemy portals though. You can't really see through ally portals either, but you can go through any of them and then just go to where like they just portaled and try to chase them. You can close portals at a whim. You could throw the grenades and close other enemies' portals. It's so fun, and I wish that more people have played it. But the problem is that nobody's playing it. I don't think that... let me not say nobody's playing it. There is esports and stuff that is going on right now. But as far as like a casual experience, I feel like Splitgate might be dead in the water because Halo just came out. I really wish it wasn't the case. And I like Splitgate more than Halo at the current moment. But I feel like for the nuance and such of that, it's just not going to recover. And I wish they would. Maybe they can recover with some brand new spectacle or something that might bring it back on the map. But, oh, other real big problem is that it does have a bot system to where, like, if someone rage quits, you're going to, like, still go up against, like, a full team. But that person that had left and that bot that replaces them are so uniquely bad that it just brings the experience down to a horrible, like, feeling and experience. Like, if it's a full-on 4v4, I'm all for it. Like, nothing will really make me want to play the game anymore. But the fear that someone's going to rage quit and then you get, like, a bot for, like, half the game and then you lose, or that bot just auto-aims as soon as you shoot that person and then it insta-180, 360 no-scopes you and then progresses. It's awful, and that really brings the whole experience down. But even with that, I wish I could praise more about this game. And I can even forgive the battle pass for it, because unlike Halo, there's some shit in here that's like cool looking. It even has like an upcoming Christmas, I think it actually just came out, Christmas playlist, to where like it has Christmas themed like gingerbread house assault rifle, or like a candy cane, like something, whatever. It just has so much like just fun, unique stuff that you don't have to even spend money on. You can accrue as you can play the game, you can accrue some points, and I think it's split points, split bucks, whatever it is. You accrue them for free, and then you can spend them on whatever you want. And you have daily bonuses, daily missions that you can still add to that value, and then get stuff back and all that. So it's just worth it for a free experience. You could just get whatever you want if you just play it long enough. And that I can certainly appreciate from Splitgate over from the Halo experience right now. But I really do hope that this game does come back on the map and more people do come back to play it. Maybe it'll add like some new features or something, or maybe even a sequel in the future, whatever. But for what Splitgate is, man, it rekindled a fire that I lost long ago, and I will always respect Splitgate for that. And for that, solid 9. It is the best solid A that I could give it. I just wish that it just had a little bit more and the bots weren't as frequent. But Splitgate brought my love for multiplayer back, and holy shit, just give it a shot and hopefully you'll like it too. Like I said, free, so nothing really there. So Okay. Next up. Okay. Now we're gonna be talking about, we're gonna talk about a game that I wish that I could kind of elaborate a little bit more without talking about the other games in this series. But this game came out this year too, and it is not my favorite of them, but it is so powerful with its messaging and its overall connecting plot to the series as a whole, that Imposter Factory, a solid 9. Man, of all the Ken Gao, I will talk about this more, but this is the third in the game series of the To the Moon franchise. I will talk about the rest of them later on, as you can see here, but just gonna focus on what Imposter Factory really brought. In my opinion, it is the weakest. It is the weakest of the storytelling. It is the weakest of pretty much a lot of aspects of it, but for what you get and for how long you had to wait from Finding Paradise to Imposter Factory, you still get exactly what you're looking for, but in a completely new way. I wish I could go into the story, but I really won't. I just want you to play it for yourselves if you have played To the Moon and Finding Paradise already. The whole trilogy is just something to behold, and I do know that I do know that there's going to be more coming, but I just kind of wish that there was more to this game at the end. I just felt like it didn't really have like a nice neat bow on it like how the others were. It just feels like it just kind of is doing like a cliffhanger type thing, and it's just going to add more to it later, which is fine, but I just didn't feel like I got like a definitive ending from here. I thought that maybe this would be like the last of it, and I was expecting that, which it isn't. There's going to be more. So that's a double thing. It's like I love the fact that there's going to be more, but I kind of wish that it just had a better ending and just had a more solidified thing. But overall, like I said, it's a solid 9. Again, as good of an A as I can give it. I just wish that it just had more to it with actual wrapping it up as far as a trilogy is concerned. I'm not going to talk about it any further because I got to talk about the other two, and I can't talk about this game without talking about those. So I will hold off on explaining further up until later. But like I said, I'm not going to talk about spoilers for any of them. Just got to talk about it as a neat package because that's just how it is. All right. Next on my list is I guess I'd have to really think about what is a S rank versus an A rank, because now all the rest of these are in the S category. I will say that going into the next one is Finding Paradise, and that is S class. It is a 9.2 in my opinion. This is better than Imposter Factory, and this came out, I believe, in 2017. This one was the sequel to the Moon. This is the second one in the franchise. And from what you get from To the Moon and how that ends, you just get the next chapter of what these the main characters go through. Just a new story being told in a different way. Again, I can't really go into what this game is about versus talking about what To the Moon is about, which I'll get more into. But as far as what the story is in this one, it's just, you just got what you got from To the Moon, just better. And I can actually even talk about the gameplay. Yes, the gameplays are, in these trilogies of games, a very story-driven game, to where I believe it was made by RPG Maker. And it's just not really so much of like something you could talk about in a game. It's a very point-and-click adventure. But for what point-and-click adventures are, they really tell stories. And if you're not really a fan of those, that's on you. But I'm very much, gameplay is just as integral to a story or to a game as a story can be. And for what these are, the stories are exceeding anything that I could experience from a studio that is just held by a guy that is just so incredibly creative and so thought-provoking with how how he presents his stories. And this sequel was no slouch in comparison to the first one, but it's just not as strong in my opinion. Play these yourselves. I will go a little bit more as to what it's really about a little bit later with talking about To the Moon. But 9-2, first S rank of the day. And I do wish I could talk about it more, but I am not a spoilers, and these games are very story-centric. The other thing I will talk about is that the music of these games are fucking top-notch. The creator of these games is also one of the musicians on the game, and he is just so talented when it comes to the soundtracks of these that every single like piece just starts going in harder and harder on the sentimental moment, on the high-flying moments, and the high praise and the smile moments and all that. Whimsical moments too. It's just something I can really appreciate as someone who is very kind of near and dear to music making and music gratification. So I can appreciate these games to a higher level than maybe some others can, but that's just me. So, you know, either way, I still hope you guys take what I say and incorporate that into your next franchise that you should look into and consider playing. These are all Safer Imposter Factory. They are all on both Switch and Steam. Imposter Factory would only just come out on Steam. I believe it will get on the Switch in the future. So you have multiple ways to play them, and they are very cheap. So don't know why you're spending $60 on something that studio and a team like this definitely deserves for a fraction of the price. So you won't be disappointed. If you love stories, the trilogy is something to behold. So we'll move on, and I'll of course talk about To the Moon extensively later. Next up in the S rank category, I gotta say, man, this is another one of those that kind of just man, I wish that I didn't know the story of this, because through osmosis and through what other people have said, Shadow of the Colossus is one of those classics that should be played by everybody, and I can wholeheartedly say that definitively. This game was and still is one of the best games to be on a PlayStation platform, period. Not so much the PS3 remake. It came out on the PS2 back, I believe, in 2002 around-ish. Maybe 2003, somewhere along that line. And back then, it received 10s, 9s, nothing lower than a 9 from what I can recall. Everyone was talking about Shadow of the Colossus. It just breezed right on by for me. I did hear the story, and I did see people talk about the story and its ending, which really put me off on ever playing it. But with Blue Point remaking this game, Shadow of the Colossus, and putting it on the PS4, I had no reason not to get my hands on it and get a feel for it. This game it's all about how well you can fight something that is just so David and Goliath multiple times. It just seems so impossible on how you're supposed to defeat these bosses, these colossi. But there is ways to defeat them, and they all have their own ways of getting through each phase and how you can deal damage to them, which all of them are unique. Some of them better than others, for sure. But for what it feels like going up and climbing with the stamina mechanic and finding the weak points and such, man, it is, even with knowing the story, and the story is great from what they tell it, even with me knowing it, I just love this game for its gameplay. And I will not speak of the story at all, but I just hope that you really like fighting multiple bosses that make it feel like a giant skeptical multiple times. And like I said, they're all unique, they're all fantastic, and just getting to the bosses and just having a nice open roam area and just the new remade landscape just seems so like breathtaking in some areas, for sure. Bluepoint did such a good job with remaking this game, and the polish and all the refinedness just really goes a long way. Man, if you haven't played this, you have no reason not to play Shadow of the Colossus. It is on PS4. I really fucking hope that you get a chance to get a PS4 or PS5 and play Shadow of the Colossus, because it is probably one of the best games ever made. on a general perspective, and I can totally see that right now. Solid 9.4, 9.5, 100%. Okay, top 3. We're in the fucking top 3, baby. Holy shit. We had some fucking strong ass bangers this year. Nothing really bad that I played, but top 3, baby. Man. Okay, let's talk about expectations. Let's talk about what a series means to people. What people are expecting from a franchise that never miss. That this series never misses. And even with those ones that aren't as good, they are just solid at the very least. And that rings no more true than Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread. Okay. My series, or my history with the series, is as follows. Never played any of the games up until Metroid Prime. I'm one of those fuckers, I know. Played Metroid Prime 1, played Metroid Prime 2, skipped Metroid Prime 3, didn't play any other Metroid game up until a more recent venture about 2 or 3 years ago with Metroid Fusion. That was my first ever 2D Metroid game. And wow, what an experience that I've missed out on so many, like, adventures and just feelings of just going back and forth of certain areas and just the gameplay of what Metroidvanias are. They have a categorized themselves versions of these games that are just so timeless. No one doesn't like these from what I know. And I thought I would not really enjoy them. But playing through games like Hollow Knight, playing games like Ori and the Blind Forest, where they are the Metroidvania styles, going in different areas, getting upgrades to then go back and then... I didn't think I would like them as much as I do, but I love them now. And now I can at least say that with Metroid Dread, I will for sure go back and play like some of the classics like Super Metroid. I will for sure go back and do that. I will play Metroid Prime 3 in the future and play like the aiming with the Wii, which is apparently like the best way to play those games. I will go back. Just talking about Dread. This exceeded expectations for sure on a lot of people, and I can't really speak for the experiences that people have not really enjoyed for Dread, but from what I played out of it, this was so fucking great. There's a lot of hard sections of this game where like you have to think right on your toes and just keep moving, and you don't really get a chance to really like escape or just you feel like there's nothing you can do in certain areas, being chased by the Emmys, which are like the biggest factors of a lot of people's deaths in these games, where like if you get caught, you get like 1 or 2 frame 1 perfect chances to get away from them, and if you die, then you restart, you go all the way back, and you gotta it feels like something that you would get out of a SNES experience, but for modern day. Of course the weapons feel fantastic. Wave beams is good, super missiles is good, super bombs, all of them are feeling like much of what you would expect from a Metroid game. They all feel so the same but new at the same time when it comes to certain enemy types, and the return of the fusion enemies. I'm forgetting the top of them off of my head what the fuck their names are. The X parasites, yeah. Those being in this game, which I didn't think was going to be part of it. It just got so many different aspects of all the Metroid games from back then into this, and it's just it feels like it's another thing that people have been wanting for so long that they never thought they would ever get. Prime 4 is coming, I'm sure, at some point. Rolling of the eyes. But I don't think anyone from the 2D planes of experiencing Metroids really experienced, or not experienced, but like really expected Dread to be out. And now that it is, wowee. What a fucking game. Nitpicks are, of course, there. Like how any other games, but they're not really significant enough to talk about. If you have a Switch, there is no reason you shouldn't be playing Metroid Dread already if you haven't. 9.6, I would say, for this game. Maybe a 9.5 at the least. But S-Class, this is top 3. This is number 3 for this year for me. Play Dread. Love a fuck. Get a Switch. Buy Dread. What the fuck? Okay. This is really hard. This is really, really hard. I wish I could have these both as my game of the year. I really wish I could. I may change my mind in the future. I may switch it. This is probably another one of those things where it's like, and then one day I'll change it. Right? These are both so incredibly near and dear to what I love from storytelling and visual prowess and skeptical and landscapes and just they're both so fucking good, man. I wish I couldn't pick. My second favorite game of the year, and I say this every chance I get. Play 13 Sentinels. All right. What is 13 Sentinels? That's a very good question. You know what? Even I don't know what 13 Sentinels is. I would love to do a spoiler talk with somebody in the future talking about this. But 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is the most confusing, the most convoluted, the most what the fuck experiences I have ever experienced playing a video game. This is made by the same people who have made It Escapes Me off the top of my head. The beat 'em up game that was back on PS3, Dragon's Crown. This is made by those guys. They made a lot of other visual games that are very breathtaking with these seemingly like paintings of landscapes and sections and just beautiful art that don't really translate well to their previous work, like through beat 'em ups and stuff. But this is a visual novel game, like a Phoenix Wright-esque, to where you have to say or do certain things in order to progress to the next thing. Not necessarily a point and click, but saying the right dialogue and doing the right things, and not necessarily that you're gonna do the wrong things, but in order for you to progress to the next section, you may have to go back and then say a certain different line, and then you'll be able to progress further, because you have to hear like multiple versions of what these people will say, and then the story will progress in a lot of different ways. Here's the thing about 13 Sentinels. Don't talk about 13 Sentinels. I wish I could go more into a game to try and entice you to play this game. I hope that my rating, at the very least, and if you like anything that I play, and you like my taste, that this at least speaks volumes to where I wish I could say it's the game of the year, but at the current moment I can't. This game is so special. As convoluted, as confusing as what the fuck it is, I was on the edge of my seat throughout the entire experience. I love this fucking game. This is another one of those to where I wish I could go back and replay it for the very first time. There are not that many games that I'm going to say that I wish I could do that. Persona 4 Golden being probably like my very top. But this one's like right behind it, man. Every single thing that you think that this story is going to go in a certain way, but then you switch to a different character's perspective, and it's not that at all. Turns out this is the story. This is what they're experiencing. Wait, go switch to this other character. Wait, what the fuck? This is supposed to be this. Why is it like this? I wish I could go further. I wish I could. But what did I just say? Don't talk about 13 Sentinels. Just don't. Just play 13 Sentinels. I wish I could buy people copies of this and then them play it. Because, man, this game really does deserve more money. This game deserves so much more recognition. And, by God, if you just have any respect or any likeness of my tastes, 9-7, 9-8. Play 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. It is PS4 exclusive, but it is coming to Switch, I believe, in 2022. And it's actually going to have a slight little extra content, not so much of story, but in gameplay perspective. That is something I can't talk about. I can't talk about this. The gameplay, being a visual novel, also has a secondary element to where it is a tactical RPG. The tactical RPG-ness is not something that I would ever really talk about, but I can at least say that I don't really like tactical RPGs, but this was fun enough for me to like actually like think about enjoying the genre, and then going back into like playing Fire Emblem or some shit like that. And I don't really like the idea of playing Fire Emblem, but going through 13 Sentinels, I gotta say, this is one of those games where like it's a genre changer, and I don't really like those, but I'll give another shot at those. Thank you, 13 Sentinels. You're making me gonna play Fire Emblem in the future. No promises there, but at least I'm interested, you know? But to put a bow on it, like I said, just for everything, just put it in the back of your mind, give it a shot. I hope you play it, and I hope you're into it as much as I am. Now, obviously, that just leaves my personal game of the year. Oh, man. Wow. I really thought it was going to be 13 Sentinels this year. I beat it maybe like at the beginning of the year, and then I started playing To the Moon after. Okay, now I can talk about To the Moon and the series as a whole. I will mainly just talk about this game, but the series as a whole will all combine into each other, since I basically played them this year, one right after the other. I believe To the Moon came out around 2013, 2014, something like that, around that time. I've always heard many people talk about it. I've always heard people say so many good things about To the Moon, but never have I actually ever thought that this would have such an impact on me as it did. This is made by, like I said, Ken Gao before. This is him and his team. He did the music, he did storytelling, he did a whole lot. And his team, fucking superb when it comes to pixel art, when it comes to music, when it comes to set pieces, when it comes to anything that's technical about the game. There is one major gripe about the game, but I do overlook it because it is a point-and-click adventure. The point and clicking is not as responsive sometimes. This was their first shot at the game, at the series, and it did get better as it got, as you got to like Finding Paradise and such. But man, that was just kind of a drag when you just want to click onto like going up the stairs, and then like you click it and then you just do multiple clicks and it starts kind of freaking out. You kind of have to click and then just wait for him to get to that point, then click to the next spot. I kind of learned that as I went along. But it was just confusing, and this game being on Switch, maybe it has a better mechanic than being on the computer. But if you're going to play these games, probably just pick them up on Switch and just play them there. That way you won't really have like a, clicky experiences like I had. But either way, whatever platform you do have it on, that being the biggest gripe, all that is literally just put to the side. I can forgive it because of how well everything else is about the game. As I said before, it is a point-and-click adventure where it's very centered around the story of... I will talk about the story now. Not going into the specifics, but what exactly are these games about? It is about... if I had to really say it, it's about these two scientists and their adventures. What they do with certain people. I will not get into the specifics, but let's just say that you... relive their memories, and they alternate them to have different experience here or there, so that way they can right their wrongs, or maybe do something they didn't get a chance to do while they were while they wanted to, when they can. Without going into it any further, these two help them get to that stage with certain equipment, and they help piece together memories, new ones at least, to give them that story that they want. And it is such a nice concept of... it's so simple. Like, it's such a simple idea, but in execution, with the references they have, with the wit, with just how well the characters are portrayed in every story. Like, it seems like aside from the two scientists, like it's a whole new story within every game, which is kind of what it is. It's like a new, like, part 1, part 2, part 3 type thing. With this very first one, I did not expect to hit me so hard when it comes to, like, just love and care for presentation and storytelling and music and all of that just being combined. I fucking cried like a fucking bitch. Thinking about this game makes me feel like crying like a bitch. And I don't give a shit. I don't fucking hide my emotions, man. This shit is so heartstringing pulling. It's so... I wish that I could go back and play this again and relive those feelings. But, you know, just... To the Moon is so special, man. It may not be one of my favorite games of all time. It is, to me at least, for what I played this year, it was the most... It's the one game I'm going to be talking about that from a studio that doesn't really have that much resources, that it's just so incredible of what they made with what they did. And I'll always love indie games for that. You know, I'll always love Ori and the Blind Forest and the Will-o'-the-Wisp. I'll always love Hollow Knights for all these things, right? Hades, of these small studios that do so much incredible work that they just really do deserve more praise. And hopefully when you guys watch my streams and I talk about these things, that they urge you to give them a shot, because indies are, in my opinion, better than most AAA games that come out. And this is definitely another one of those that is so well worth your time. I do hope that from what you see on this list, if you fucking like shooters, you've got them here. You've got Halo, you've got Metroid, you got classics like Shadow of the Colossus, you got weird ones like fucking Superliminal and fucking 13 Sentinels. There are definitely some things that people have never heard of, but I like to delve into so many different categories. And from what you see here, this is what I feel is what, from what I played in 2021, the best. This is just the best game. And 13 Sentinels, I may switch you on a different day. But on that note, I'm going to probably just kind of end the recording there and come back with more SMT. I'm probably just going to take a quick break. I've been recording for a while. I'm going to probably do some editing later to kind of chop this up. But thanks, guys, for watching. Again, I apologize for not really being so conclusive with my schedule recently. I wanted to take a little bit of a break. I kind of needed it. I will probably be redoing my structures on how I do some playthroughs and how I'll do streams in the future. This week will be heavy streams, because not only am I going to continue with playthroughs, but the Game Awards are also this week, in which there are going to be a lot of reveals from what I can hear. There's going to be a lot of stuff to go through, for sure. But as far as 2021, this is solid. Like, this is great. And there are no bad games here, just some stuff that you don't necessarily have to play. But just if it kind of piqued your interest a little bit, it's there. But yeah, 2022 is going to have some fucking... It's going to have some shit. And including games that are bleeding in from this year, like SMT5, like I'm playing, and Phoenix Wright, the Great Ace Attorney, the Chronicles, whatever it's called. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be probably a little bit more AAA that you'll see next year. But this was definitely the year of looking back and, you know, looking at shit that's just kind of out there. And if I got to tell you, I'll tell you again until I burn it into your heads. Play 13 Sentinels and play To the Moon, for the love of God. And thank you, Ontario. So right before I'm ending the recording, for the resub, homie. I love you, homie, and I see you, Milky. Marvel 3 is not the game here.
Courses through me.
But yes, guys, I think with that, I will be back a little bit later. Gonna end the recording now. I'll do some editing, and then I'll be back with SMT tonight. But that's my list. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, I apologize for a little bit of a hiatus, but I am going to be sticking back to my backness on this. This week's going to be mainly heavy on SMT and probably switching back and forth with Bloodborne. And we might have a Marvel stream and a Mario Party stream later. Maybe a Halo stream here and there. And also keep in mind of the Game Awards. We will be reacting to that, so it'll be a little bit of a weird day. I think that's on Thursday. So, gonna have a little bit of extra stuff in here. So, I'll see you guys then. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Play 13 Sentinels and play To the Moon. For the love of God, I hope you guys do. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Peace out, y'all. I'll see you guys next time.